Welcome to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. And now your host, Tim Johnson.
Welcome to the 7th season of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. In 2020, we'll tape 20 new shows that will air on Sunday mornings on 7 network affiliates across our state. I'm pleased to get an update from the state's Chamber of Commerce when Stephen Waguespack, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, joins us when we return on this edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Louisiana businesses, by partnering with your local community and technical college foundation, you're guaranteed a skilled, highly competent workforce, homegrown talent, trained specifically to meet your needs, whatever those needs are. Visit this website to learn more about how to partner with your local Louisiana Community and Technical College Foundation. To better prepare for tomorrow, become a partner today.
At Optimal, we understand what's at stake during your projects. That's why we value integrity, trust, and expertise. We retain proven and experienced craftsmen to execute customized solutions across the country, so you stay ahead of schedule and under budget. At Optimal, you come first, plain and simple. We have your back, and we always deliver. Experience the Optimal difference.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
For 8 seconds in the arena before an afternoon in the field. For a promise to students that honors success in the classroom. For championships earned on the bayou. For innovators committed to reclaiming our coastline. The Universities of Louisiana. For your future. For our future.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Stephen Waguespack, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, is my guest for his 7th appearance in 7 years.
Lucky number 7.
How about that?
Here we go.
I appreciate you always being here.
My pleasure.
Let's start with a general update on LABI. I know one of the exciting things that's happened is you guys have moved into a new facility.
Well, we're on the verge of it. We're knocking on the door, literally and figuratively. So for years, as a state chamber, we were kind of away from downtown. We had businesses come in to kind of meet with policymakers and feed off each other's energy, and we were on the other side of town. And so we bought a downtown building, we're renovating it, and our vision is to turn it into the hangout house for business. So if you're a business in Louisiana and you're in Baton Rouge, whether for personal or professional reasons, I want a one-stop shop so that a company can come in, interact with other policymakers and other business leaders around the state, feed off each other's energy. I want this to be a center of gravity so good ideas can flourish and kind of drive where we take the economy from years to come. So we're almost done renovating, move in May. And we'll be steps from the Capitol. We'll be right in the heart of downtown. And so it'll be an exciting moment when we get in. It'll be a new brand for the organization. And I hope it becomes a calling card for companies across the state.
Well, LABI does a lot of things, and maybe we can get into a few of those. But the location of this building, not only critically important as a magnet for business, but the proximity to the Capitol will certainly make your job lobbying the legislature and hosting legislative events and all of those sort of things much easier as well. Talk about that aspect in terms of the relationship with the legislature.
I think it's more important today than it ever has been before. In the term limit era, you have new people constantly coming in and out of the Capitol. And while some folks may look at that and say, it's messier, it's less reliable, I think it's a fantastic thing because you want new energy, new ideas, new fresh perspectives to constantly be going into the Capitol to look at these problems. And so if we're closer to the Capitol, we create a place where people can come, share ideas. If you want to argue it out or grind it out in that avenue and then go to the Capitol where you've fought some of those battles, maybe we can finally start getting to the solution stage of some of this stuff. I think people are becoming a little disillusioned with the constant fighting and bickering of politics. And we got to rekindle that hope. And I think the way to do that is to be substantive what we're trying to do, explain why it benefits families and small business across the state, and create a venue where folks can come in, kick around ideas, and then come out with maybe a little bit closer to the goal line than we can get in a typical committee or floor structure.
Just like any other aspect of life or business, if you develop a genuine relationship with an individual, it's a little bit more difficult to fight against that individual or have negative things to say. And as you work to convince these legislators that some of the things you're doing for small business and for families and to create jobs and to grow our economy, that proximity, I think, will be beneficial to you.
And I will tell you, I think that's what you see in Congress today, where most of those congressional people, they know each other and their colleagues through their Twitter handle, not because of their families. They don't spend time with them. And we've got to put personal face on some of these people, not just from the outside interacting with elected officials, but encourage elected officials to start getting to know each other and break bread a little bit more. Because I think what we'll realize is there's a lot more commonality than we give us credit for these solutions.
So a lot's happened since we were last on the air. Our season for the Louisiana Business and Industry Show runs from the beginning of February to the middle of June. So the end of last year, we had legislative elections, we had a governor's election. A lot of things have taken place. Let's first take a look back at 2019, Stephen. Give us big picture impression, maybe some of the things that LABI was working on last year that you had some success with.
Yeah, sure. Last year, obviously, was an election year. You had all the statewide, you had legislative, and this year you had term limits kick in. And so you had a number of legislators that were rolling out, and the need to find new candidates was really intense last year. And so we, as the state chamber, we took it upon ourselves to go help that process. And so we did boot camps all around the state. We went to every town you can think of and basically talked to business leaders, small business, big business, all in between, and said, why don't you or someone you know run for office? It's not that hard. And we did these boot camps to show them the policies that are important, how easy it is to set up a campaign and get your message out. And you saw a lot of new candidates run for office. At the same time, we created a C4 called the Free Enterprise Institute to get the message out on why we stand for certain policies. When we talk legal reform, it's not some boring legalese topic. It's an issue that can make a difference for a family or a business. And so we put that message out in a way that people can appreciate. And so in the election cycle, we were very proud to see a lot of new candidates, a lot of new ideas. They were able to articulate why they were running. So you're going to have this infusion of new people, new personalities in the building, in the Capitol for the next 4 years. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to tackle some of these things in an innovative way.
If you think about what's happened in the state Senate specifically, where a lot of good pro-business economic growth type legislation would get stalled from time to time.
From time to time.
I was trying to be nice. Would die. You've really changed that to a more conservative supermajority there. So you're even sort of veto-proof in that chamber. In the House, you got close to that supermajority in terms of pro-business, pro-economic growth legislators. But the overall makeup of the legislature is going to be very different for the next 4 years in terms of maybe the ability to get some of these positive things passed. I want to talk about some of those specifics a little bit later, but just talk big picture about the legislature in terms of its transformation toward a more pro-growth, pro-economic development, pro-job type of body.
I think it has the potential to be a game changer, not just for the Capitol, but for the way Louisiana handles our challenges, a literal game changer. For decades in Louisiana, as long as we can remember, there was a small group of people that controlled everything, and usually that meant kill everything that looked like reform. That's changing now. And so there's going to be an open season on new ideas, open debates. There'll be spirited discussions back and forth. It'll look a little messier at times. But for the first time since we can all remember, the House and the Senate are going to have an opportunity to debate ideas on the merits, to battle them out on the merits in front of the cameras, and may the best idea win. And I think we've been wanting for that moment a long time. We're now wired with leadership to allow those debates to flourish.
It's going to be interesting to watch, and I think we are in a good position to finally move forward on some of these reforms that the business community has long looked forward to, but we just weren't able to get past. I want to come back from this break. I want to talk about the state of Louisiana's economy, the state of business and industry in Louisiana. We're visiting with Stephen Waguespack. He's the president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, and you're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Spadel's Florist was founded over 30 years ago. From my mom's kitchen, we have grown into into one of the largest florists in this area. There's a sense in our community that you stick together, good times or bad. And oil and gas is part of that family. They're my neighbors, they're my customers, they're the person I'm sitting next to at church. If oil and gas is doing well, all of our businesses are doing well. We are Louisiana Oil and Gas.
Louisiana businesses. By partnering with your local community and technical college foundation, you're guaranteed a skilled, highly competent workforce, homegrown talent, trained specifically to meet your needs, whatever those needs are. Visit this website to learn more about how to partner with your local Louisiana Community and Technical College Foundation. To better prepare for tomorrow, become a partner today.
ExxonMobil Baton Rouge keeps the local economy rolling. Our new aviation project created hundreds of jobs, drove millions of dollars to local businesses, and poured thousands more into our community to improve schools. 1 in 8 jobs in our parish can be traced back to ExxonMobil. Tomorrow's Baton Rouge is built by what we do today. A little energy goes a long way. ExxonMobil Baton Rouge. Energy lives here.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Stephen Waguespack of LABI is our guest. We talked a little bit about LABI and some of the successes, some of the things you were focused on. Stephen, give our viewers a big picture overview of the state of Louisiana's economy today.
Yeah, so the economy in Louisiana, I would say, is tremendously benefited by the roaring national economy. Last couple of years, the feds have come in, they've cut taxes, they've cut regulations, they've done whatever it takes to bring back manufacturing from overseas. That infusion of growth and capital and investment we're benefiting from. So that is the good news. The bad news is, as we take a closer look and compare ourselves to the peers we fight against, Texas, other states in the South, et cetera, they're all doing better than we are. And so we've got things we're doing at home that we have to fix in order to truly benefit as much as our peers in the South are doing. That's the largest challenge. Our unemployment rate is knocking on the door of 5%, which is pretty high. We're losing population in neighboring states like Texas. Those are trends we're worried about, but it's not feeling like a 5-alarm fire yet because the national economy is doing so well. But if the national economy slows down, or if other states continue to have big leads on us and all these things, it'll start to be felt more thoroughly throughout the state. Now, in pockets of the state, it's being felt harshly right now. If you're in Lafayette, drive down 90 down to the bayou, go through that area, they're feeling it today, right now. We're sitting here in Baton Rouge, not so much because there's construction and there's all that, not so much in Lake Charles, but North Louisiana, down the bayou, they're already feeling some of the pinch, and we've got to be serious about fixing it, and it starts this session.
You've been on the show once each season. We mentioned at the start that this is your 7th appearance, and I think you and I have probably had some version of this conversation all 7 times. When you think about us compared to the rest of the South, and even Texas, and you think about the things that occur naturally here in Louisiana, if we could get some of these systematic, long-term issues fixed that have plagued us from a governmental standpoint for years and years and years, it seems to me that Louisiana in particular would be very difficult to compete against as an economic engine. You think about the Gulf of Mexico, you think about the fertile farmland, you think about our documented top 5 work ethic and productivity that we have in this state. You think about the culture and the music and the food, and then you think about the fact that we sit on the mouth of the greatest economic transportation artery in the Western Hemisphere. And so you think, well, what could screw that up? What could hold us back? And we've done it to ourselves with populist politics and this sort of let's spread these resources thinly so everybody gets a little something kind of approach. I know that you guys are focused like a laser on looking at the things that change this business climate to a pro-growth type of environment that lifts everyone through job creation and wage growth. Let's talk about the climate a little bit in Louisiana in terms of the business. If I'm a business person looking from the outside in, what concerns me?
Well, first of all, you stated that very well. I mean, our biggest challenge is self-inflicted wounds. We have all the assets that you mentioned. Those jump off the page, not just if you're here in Louisiana, but if you're outside looking in. You see all the benefits that you just mentioned, but you also see the self-inflicted wounds we put on ourselves. It starts with a tax code that is extremely complicated to deal with. And whether you're a big company or small company, it is an impediment. It then goes to a legal system, which is absolutely something that scares off investors, whether you are oil and gas, whether you're in timber, agricultural, trucking, no matter what you're in, it scares you off, and that is a huge issue. Workforce. This is one we share with a lot of other states, but we've got a challenge with our workforce. We've got the largest percentage of people in Louisiana since the 70s who are choosing not to enter the workforce. So we have a lot of people who are choosing not to work or have given up looking because they can't find the job. That starts with K-12 education. And then the last piece is infrastructure. We've got to do something to repair our aging infrastructure and to add new pathways in order to create new opportunities. So it is complicated tax code, flawed legal climate, it is an education system that must improve, and it's an infrastructure dedication and investment. Those are the things that over the years we have chosen either to ignore or actually make more harmful. That's where we got to get serious about the solutions that we have to tackle.
And in the last segment today, I want to dive into those in some detail, and at least some of those. And one of the things that you guys worked really hard on over the last couple of years that I think helps move us in the right direction is transparency in government spending. And so you worked on things like the Louisiana checkbook and trying to shine greater light on where exactly Louisiana is spending its dollars, because we've got a whole segment of the population that would say we need more revenue, we need more taxes, we can't fund the government services that we need. We've got another huge segment of our population that says we're way overtaxed. Government has way too much money already. We don't need to do it. You're trying to help shine some light about what the reality is. Talk to us a little bit more about where all of that stands.
There has to be an effort that is multi-pronged to rebuild the trust between citizens and their elected officials. It is fundamentally broken, and there's lots of fathers and mothers who are the birth this problem, okay? But we have got to fix and rebuild that trust. And I think transparency is the core to do that. So the Louisiana checkbook we talked last time, it is now up and running to an extent. It's a little slower than anyone want, but what is online is good. So there's a lot of information on how the dollars are being spent, where the budget's going, that people can go through a click access and find. That is the beginning of what I hopefully once fully implemented will start to pull the curtain back a little bit on how tax dollars are being spent. Because most people, when they're on social media, they're reading the headlines in The Advocate or whatever, they're not sure what to trust, who to believe. So this can start to rebuild that trust. And once fully out there, then when you go back to a citizen and you talk about investment and infrastructure, you can show them how the dollars can be used accountability. Then you can go to a citizen on education reform and say, look, here's why we have to fix the schools or bring in new competition through a charter or some other choice mechanism, because here's where the dollars can be used more effectively. And you can go along the line and show that. People are not going to trust anymore unless you literally show them all of the information, and Louisiana Checkbook is going to be the best way to do it once it's fully implemented.
Well, I encourage our viewers to go take a look at that. I'm going to take a break. We come back. I want to get into some specifics about tort reform and what we might be looking at. Some of the things that LABI will be focused on in this upcoming legislative session. We're visiting with Stephen Waguespack of LABI. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Since 1919, we've designed and constructed hundreds of industrial plants, roads, ships, dams, and executed some of the most complex jobs in the world. In fact, our quality and dependability are legendary. Today, the legend continues as Brown & Root delivers engineering, construction, maintenance, and industrial specialty services throughout the U.S. and the world from our headquarters here in Louisiana. We are Brown & Root.
Welcome to Southwest Louisiana. 5 parishes working hand in hand to provide economic development, opportunity, and quality of life. $43 billion in projects underway, $65 billion in the pipeline, 18,000 construction workers, and 18,000 permanent jobs. It's all here. Welcome to Opportunity, the Southwest Louisiana Alliance.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Stephen Waguespack, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, is our guest. We talked about the new legislature, and one of the things that's going to be interesting to watch, I think, is the relationship between this significantly more conservative Senate, this a House that remains pretty conservative, and Governor Edwards. Let's talk a little bit about your conversations with the governor, your communication there, and what you see as the working relationship between these branches of government as we go forward over the next 4 years.
Well, I'm an optimist at heart, and so I'm hoping that we end up having a great hand-in-glove relationship. I think the election cycle last time, it was really a tale of 2 elections. On the legislative seats, there was a lot of talk of important issues like legal reform and auto insurance and budget accountability. Those issues drove a population that came out and supported a very conservative legislature. At the statewide elected official, especially in the governor's race, there wasn't really much issues talked about. It was really about, his name calling and finger pointing. And so I'll take that as in, like, we go into the second term, maybe as a free agent. We haven't, there's no, like, really guardrails on policy. And so I'm hopeful that he sits down with the new legislature, finds that there's some common ground on some of those issues, and we can kind of, like, have a better ability in this term to work collaboratively on these issues. Because our business members, they're tired of floating from one bunker to another. They just want solutions. And I'm with them, and we're ready to work with upstairs, downstairs, anyone in the building who wants to get it done.
We'll watch it closely. The governor has made some statements post-reelection that he is open to tort reform, and he is open to some of the things that the business community has long been concerned about. I have a really good friend who has, for most of his adult life now, lived in Houston. He started and owned and sold a pretty significant oil company there. And in my private conversations with him, he says, I'd love to do more business in my state. I'd love to come home to Louisiana and do what I do. But he said, when you compare legal climates, particularly for the oil and gas industry in Louisiana as compared to Texas, he says it's keeping business and jobs and growth away from your state, Tim. And that concerns me, and I know it concerns you. And so let's talk specifically about tort reform, legacy lawsuits, auto insurance rates, all of those things that we have worked on but not found real solutions to. What's the approach in 2020?
Well, the approach in 2020 is it's the #1 top priority for the business community to go in and pass meaningful tort reform that leads to more jobs and lower insurance rates. Period, hard stop. And it's either going to pass in 2020 or we're going to talk about it in 2021, in 2022, 23, 24, until it happens. There's no more looking the other way. There's no more putting the blinders on. It is out of control. And I'm sorry it's not to that point. It's to be stated like that. We have to address this. There are too many energy jobs that have left because of this out of control climate. There are too many families and small businesses and truckers and ag guys burdened by out of control insurance rates because of this legal climate. We have to fix it. And I hear it from every size company in every region of the state. This isn't a partisan issue. I hear it from Republicans and Democrats alike. If you have a 16-year-old child like I do, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or a male or a female, you feel the cost of an increased bad legal climate with your insurance rates. It hurts me, my 16-year-old son right now.
I know how that feels.
You know how it feels.
Yes.
But while it's annoying to me, if you're a sugarcane farmer trying to move your product to the mill, it's life or death. If you're timber, life or death. A trucker, life or death. We've got to fix it. So bills will come this year. The good news is the Talbot bill from last year fixed a lot of this on the insurance side. It had bipartisan support. It roared through the House. It got stuck in the one committee in the Senate that was wired to kill it. That committee's now changed. That committee's a fair fight. So I think if we do nothing else, we get that Talbot bill through the process and upstairs, we will beg the governor to sign it and hope that he can find a way to do that and let that go into law. If not, this legislature is not going to go away. They're either going to vote to override or bring this bill time and time again, not because it's a partisan game, because it's such needed. Everyone recognizes it, and I'm hoping the governor does as well.
Well, from a grassroots support, you need the business community and individual citizens to engage in this fight, right? These legislators need to hear from John Public with high auto insurance rates and from the small trucking companies that are out there.
And listen, some of those citizens that used to talk about that, they're now in the legislature. Talk to Heather Cloud about this issue.
I've known Heather
Talk to
Cloud
Mike
all my
Reese
life.
about this issue. Talk to Gabe Furman about this issue. Talk to a host of new legislators about this issue, and they will talk more passionately than I do, not because they're some big behemoth company, because they're a small business, homegrown Louisiana company trying to make it work, and they're tired of having to swim upstream unnecessarily.
We got about 90 seconds left here, so we'll have to move quickly. Tax structure. You mentioned how convoluted and complicated it is. Even if you, in the final analysis, pay relatively low tax, trying to figure it out and trying to create certainty around it is difficult. 30 seconds, tax structure. Will we see anything take place there?
There will be a robust discussion on centralized sales tax collection. Again, this is something the state's going to have to address in the next year or two, hopefully this year. The Supreme Court has ruled, basically pushing us in the corner to fix this. I'm hopeful that we're a year or two away from finally fixing this issue that will make it much easier to do business in Louisiana.
I know we're going to see a lot of things on infrastructure. We have got to do something in terms of investment, whether it is new revenue or it is redirecting revenue that exists. We have got to have additional investment in infrastructure. 20 seconds on that.
Well, I think you have to show voters where the dollars are going to go. And that's why I think there was a bill by Representative Carter last year which would have listed out projects like Baton Rouge Bridge, Lake Charles Bridge, 49 South, et cetera. If folks can see where the dollars are going and have a bulletproof assurance that's what's going to happen, I think people are willing to invest like that.
Well, it's going to be an interesting year from LABI's perspective and your engagement with the legislature, with this governor, trying to pass those reforms that move Louisiana ahead and help us to finally realize the wonderful potential that this state has. You guys, and you do a great team. You and your team do a great job, Stephen. We're going to be watching closely. I always appreciate your time on the show.
My pleasure, and thanks for all you do. You do a great job getting the message out and getting interesting people on here. Besides myself, others are interesting. Thanks for doing it.
Appreciate it. That's a wrap, guys. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next week at this very same time for another edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.